What's up, and welcome to the American Gods After Show. It's episode 8. It's the finale, Moon Shadow. And guess what? We got a goddess in the house. Stay tuned.
You're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
What's up, God Squad? Welcome to the American Gods After Show. We're talking the finale, episode 8, season 2, American Gods, Moon Shadow. And welcome the goddess Bilquis, Yetide Badaki in the house.
Give it up.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, we're so excited to have you here and dive into this episode.
A lot to dive into.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, absolutely. My name is Kari Lane, and I'm joined by my awesome co-hosts.
Chef Beans with the mental cuisine.
Flobo boys in the house with the chef. I need a hat just like that. They give me one a big F on it. I'm just saying.
Say no more.
And we have a live chat going. Welcome to everybody who's joining us live. If you're watching it later, no worries. We still love you. Please comment down below. Thank you to everybody who's been commenting throughout the season on the episodes. We love hearing what you think of the episode and what we cover in the show. And now we have an expert in the house.
Yes.
Someone who's there.
I wouldn't say an expert, but yes, I was there.
Someone who's there knows the ins and knows what it's like to be a god. Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah.
Yes. Yetide, at the beginning of this, let's start off. How did you feel this season was for you versus season 1?
Well, the great thing about this season is that we now had this net of an amazing group of performers, of artists that know each other, and that created this space where we could push even further. We knew the little buttons to push with each other on that screen. So I would say that's the biggest difference, because going in first season, I didn't know any. Well, apart from Omida Tahi, who I had done Call of Duty with just months before we found out that we were going to be in American Gods together.
Small world.
Small world.
Oh my
Fantastic.
And then, gentlemen, what did you think? This is the end, the finale. How did you feel about the ending?
It definitely was a roller coaster as far as like very thought-provoking scenes this season, especially as a person of color, really going into the nitty-gritty of what it means to have an alternative experience in this country and what that means. And it's very easy to look back and say, they're just guys. They're dealing with their own problems. What's that have to do with me? But you're seeing it more and more. It's getting closer and closer to the everyday. So I dug it.
No, definitely. I really enjoyed this episode because it spoke to how powerful television is and how it can influence you, whether it's the truth or a lie. Like, that was very telling of how they painted that picture throughout the whole episode. Like, it's kind of scary, like the things that you see on TV, how easily society just believes it without even questioning it a lot of times.
Sure.
I feel the ending was a little bit anticlimactic. I'll be honest. Of like, we're thinking there's gonna be this big battle. And it's like, wait, we're done?
That was last week's prediction, that we're going to have some sort of like
we thought that too. We're like, and no.
Yeah.
And what I love, though, is that you finally had that revelation for Shadow.
Yes.
A huge revelation. Right. And we're experiencing this as viewers through Shadow's eyes. So the veil being taken off his eyes is as if the veil is being taken off the general viewers' eyes.
Yeah.
And I thought that was pretty powerful.
Well, and it's also not to say that the episode was dull, not by any means, but it's more we don't get a literal fight, but it's really cool what we get to see Shadow do. So that was like,
agency.
We didn't do something yet. So we also, a shorter storyline, we get our rebirth of Tech Boy, which we're like, he's coming back.
What? Technical man.
Right?
Yeah. All troned out and everything. It was great.
Nice, good
Troned down.
Yes.
Tech Boy 0.5.
Yeah.
Do we think, though, that how much is that the original one? Because it didn't feel like it's the same person, because how they acted felt new. Like they're learning new information, or they're talking about things as if they haven't experienced the world. He's still his sassy, bratty self, but he's kind of approaching things from a fresh perspective.
Right. It seems a lot more mature, more transparent. And it kind of brought up the question in my head, can technology die? Because, earlier we wasn't sure if he's going to come back yet, but can Tech Boy literally be gone?
Sure. It seems that it's always going to be a rebirth there. It kind of reminded me like the whole web point 1.0 versus 2.0, right? Remember the days of GeoCities and Angel Fire where it's flashing like GIFs and top 8 MySpaces, and now there was a whole minimalistic, right? So he's seeing a lot more mature, a lot more stronger. Still a sassy self, because technology is always going to get that common denominator.
Yes, right.
But gone are the weird, like, like the the hairstyles or the 4 layers of clothes,
Yeah, and then Yetide, your character didn't really have much interaction with him this season in like last season we get the museum moment. How is it working with him?
Oh,
in
it's
general.
Well, in
Yeah.
general, that's
Yeah.
all of these artists. I mean, for example, you get scenes with people like Crispin Glover as well, who as soon as you find out that you're doing a scene, it's emails back and forth about, okay, how are we going to dive into it? With every artist has a different way, you know, with Pablo and his incredible... I mean, can we just take a minute to applaud
And it was his
Pablo
birthday, so
Schreiber?
happy birthday for him. Yay!
It was. And there, that artistry that happens in the moment as well. And working with Bruce Langley, he has his own artistry, his own methods of approaching it. And he very much, you know, on that set, in that moment, gets into the character. And it's brilliant to see.
Does Crispin Glover stay in Mr. Roll's character? I'm going to crafty. Like, is it weird? Like,
No, he doesn't.
Okay.
He doesn't. And
'Cause he
it's
has a
he's
lot
the
of roles.
warmest, funniest, most amazing individual. So I love how you know, sinister he can be in between the shots. He's laughing. He's going, oh, that was fun. That was I think that was a great one.
Yay.
Yeah. So he's
Isn't that what they always say, that
Yeah.
like the nicest great people play the best villains?
Right.
Because that's what they don't do normally. So then they're like, oh, I'm going to do all these weird things. But they
Right.
normally turn out to be the most friendly, you know, people
yeah,
that you
yeah.
want to hang out with.
and that's the same with Bruce. You know,
nice.
everyone is talking Tech Boy, and they go, "Oh, you know, he's..." And Bruce is the sweetest individual you'll ever meet. He's just sweet is the word that comes to mind.
Well, it was nice. It's fun to watch his character bad things happen to him, though, because like that's the one of those, he does a good job, because you go, ooh, it's fun to watch him suffer a little bit, similar to
Right.
watching Laura and Sweeney suffer.
Right.
They're so good as characters that you're like, oh, you're invested, even though you're almost wishing bad things on them, but it's entertaining as you the viewer. They do a great job of putting that in the show.
Right.
I do like, what do we all think of how science is our way to wrestle with God? It's like,
Oh, I think Chef has a thought there.
Yeah, so science is our way to wrestle with God. I think this brought up a lot of different conversations with people who have the debates versus, you know, science versus religion. If God did create the world, then where did all these other things go? I think they portrayed that scene very well, because it just developed a lot of different questions in your mind. Like, what do you think?
I feel like, you know, as human beings, we always want to figure out the truth. We always
Right.
want to figure out the next layer. So religion and science, even though it gets sometimes argued they're different, argued that they're the same, there's two different ways of answering the question. Why is this the way it is? And so there's always going to be that back and forth in dualism. So I loved it.
and it's just the creation of anything. Like we
Right.
are the expression playing God of making something. So I like that the show and the book and such address our day-to-day thoughts that, like, maybe you don't think about it every day, but you know, it's something that come across
No,
your
I
mind.
think about it every day.
Yeah. Nice.
All the time.
Also, how that character, Mr. Z, and he's saying how he made sacrifices and chose that life, and he doesn't leave that space. I wondered that. I'm like, dude, he like never leaves.
And first, actually, I need to do the shout out for Andrew Koji, who played the CEO.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, he did brilliantly, and he's also, I mean, you might kind of recognize his face right now on, you know, all the warrior posters that are going around. So Andrew Koji's killing it. Just wanted to give a quick shout out.
Shout out. That's awesome.
I enjoyed his character a lot too. It was such an interesting introduction, and we're seeing this person, and I could understand too the almost obsession with technology, because there are those people like the newest tech. They want the newest devices and gadgets and such. And then we get the last kind of little bit with Tech Boy too, of like, humans are not made in God's image. Gods are made in our image, and even with flaws, which is kind of a good point, and that could be something, because how many references and images of gods look like the people who are making that image?
Right. And that's, I mean, I believe, and I don't want to speak for Neil. I don't think anyone can speak for Neil. That man is just pure brilliance. But in writing the book, that was one of the things that he was approaching from the get-go, was what happens with all our belief. You know, where does that go? What does that become? And so we got to see in this scene a kind of an encapsulation of that idea.
Absolutely. And I thinking of belief and believing in it, do we think Mad Sweeney could come back?
Well,
Yes.
Yes, definitely. I was thinking about that the whole time, especially if Laura can come back. I don't see why Matt can't.
I had almost wondered if Shadow believing in him would make him come back.
Oh, that's a good point. Very
Because
good
him,
point.
like, he cared about him and he felt guilty. That I was wondering, like, oh, and then we don't see him on the slab, go up, and then we have Laura, carrying him away.
Yeah.
But that's interesting that she cared.
Can we say a little inside info? We were watching the show, and the quick shot of that empty slab, I saw you go, yeah! Oh. It's still a corpse. What are you going to do?
Yeah, but that's okay.
But she has a soft spot for him too.
She does.
You started to see that she had a soft spot, especially when Shadow gave her that information. Though she couldn't really, I guess, feel or cry, you can see her started to crack a little bit.
Right.
Now she's going to kill Wednesday. Not because Shadow did anything.
Yeah.
Not because she was murdered because of Wednesday, but he killed Sweeney.
I'm just not saying anything here because that sounds like spoiler one to me.
You don't have to get into it.
No lies
but
around.
how much more ahead than this moment of the show, this ending, do you know as an actor of the show?
Oh, that's easy. Not much.
Okay. I was all, wait, me? Well, I mean, there is a book, but it has been discussed of how much the show does deviate in a way to keep it still fresh for people who have read it.
Right, and that's the exciting thing about it, because as a fan of the book myself, you do get those moments that are straight out of the book. Even Ricky, I'm calling him Ricky, Shadow, you're just so good at it, Ricky. Shadow Moon and Mad Sweeney under the bridge. That's right out of the book. But what's exciting with this is that you have development of characters, individuals that were in the book that you didn't see that much of. And you're seeing a lot more of them now. And so you never really know whether it's going to stick to the book in that moment or it's going to veer off from it.
Yeah, and even like your character was pulled more forward in the book because it happens a little bit more later. Like there's just a little bit at the very beginning.
Right.
Then as a reader and a performer, is that more exciting for you? Like, oh, good, I get to show up sooner?
There's more of me.
Well, when you put it that way.
Well, I was going to say in more ways than one. I'm sorry, we had to make that joke.
No, it's any chance we get to play in this sandbox is
Nice.
exciting.
Yeah.
So if it's sooner, that makes me very happy as well.
We have a live chat, and Zobi Diaz says, chat therapy.
Zobi, that OG, you're the best. Love you.
Now waiting for season 3. And Andrea Rose, which I hope is more than 8 episodes. That's a good point. And then as a performer, and then as viewers, leave comments. Do we like these shows getting so meaty and juicy and interesting, but they only do 8 episodes? Because then you risk filler episodes. I feel like this show could do like 10, maybe 12.
Yeah, I agree.
8 is like, damn, that's slim.
Again, I'm staying out of this conversation.
Exactly.
Well, as a fan then.
Well, as a fan, I mean, come on. I could always go for more American Gods. I'm a fan. But again, I'm staying out of this conversation.
Yeah.
Definitely. That's awesome. It's like, I just can't get myself involved.
well.
I'm just
Yeah,
wink,
get
wink, nudge,
involved.
nudge. Email your congressman. All right.
Oh, wait, I think I'm getting a phone call from no, just kidding.
Well, also another shout out in the chat. Majestic Snow Chimp sends Queen of Sheba hearts.
Oh, heart back.
Yes.
Hearts.
Also, we had somebody saying love from Brazil. Survival games.
Oh.
Says hello guys. Say hello Brazil.
Hello,
Hello,
Brazil.
Yes.
So I have a question for you. Just thinking about how long you've been this character for so long. I mean, is it getting easier or harder to like take that character off when you're being yourself, or does like it has a bit of a convergence there where you walk into a club like, oh yeah, I'm Queen Sheba.
Yes.
Yo, reality bottle service.
Great
you know?
question.
Yeah.
Well, what I hope is that inspires some people to actually do that. But myself, you talk to me for 5 minutes, you know what a geek I am.
That's awesome.
But
Hey, geeks are sexy too.
Yeah, for
I mean, I'm not saying otherwise. But she has influenced me. I think there are moments where I go, okay, that was a little bit of Bilquis speaking up there, taking a stand.
Yeah.
And so she definitely has influenced me. But she, as you can see, I say she because she is definitely an entity of her own. I always say, you know, I'm not a goddess. I play one on TV.
everyone's a god and goddess.
Everyone's a
you are
goddess on
goddess.
the inside.
Yes.
We know that.
And then, well, actually, building off of that too, of taking that on your own, are you ever influenced by the wardrobe they put you in terms of like, oh, I would wear something like this, or that's
I want
interesting.
that romper from this final episode.
Yeah, the flowers?
I've
Oh,
got my
so
eye on
cute.
that. No, all of look, we have such an incredible team that does all of that, including hair and makeup. And you've got Daniel Cure for hair, and you've got Colin Penman, Emmy-winning. Colin Penman, we will not let you get away with that. We have these incredible costume designers. So, yeah, every aspect that goes on, there is that process. You feel it step by step, that by the time you get onto that set, you're now able to step into that character. So, yeah, it takes a village.
I think it was on Twitter. The American Gods Twitter posted about like behind the scenes photos and like giving a shout out to all the people that you don't see but that make this amazing show come to life. We have, speaking of our amazing characters and such, we have a couple people that are in there very quickly, but they're still interesting. We got to give our shout out to Anansi and Ibis. They have they're in it just a tiny bit this episode, but they have such a presence.
Right. And I love that they're literally playing chess. I mean, it can't get more evocative than that.
Right. The perfect metaphor for everything else that's happening
All
in society.
that's going on. It's a thing of beauty to watch.
And they have the rigged games are the easiest to beat. I feel there's a lot more planning going on that we are not privy to, such as Shadow as well, too, of like, I don't know what's going on, but, it's fun to watch that. Though, while they're playing chess, I did kind of enjoy, even though he's suffering a little bit, Salim freaking out watching the news. He's adorable. He's like, wait, you're like, sweetie.
I mean, just the sweetest. What do they call it? A cinnamon bun?
But I think that's just like the perfect reflection of how people just consume everything that they see on TV and just believe it. Even though he was with Shadow so much, he's like, wait, did you actually do that? What happened? And he's freaking out. But that was also a reflection of the opening scene back in, what was it, 1938 when all of that happened, how some people tuned in at whatever hour, but the world or USA was in a frenzy.
Right.
Just off of things that are controlled or rigged or just created in a certain way to make you think a certain thing.
Why would my screen lie to me? Why would my cell phone lie to me, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Andrea Rose says, I love Salim counting out his change.
Yeah, but he's buying the beer with cash because all the
Yes!
went down.
Counting out the change. Sorry, I was
never
thinking
bought
of
alcohol
this
before, yeah.
Yes, it was so cute. We also got Jan Odinson says, Game of Thrones is good, but American Gods is beyond that.
Oh, hot take.
Yes! Hashtag Team Gods. Just Team Gods, not even new gods or old gods, just Team Gods.
Team
I
Gods.
like it. And then also they add, is it just me that already misses Bilquis' sexy accent?
Oh, okay.
Wow. I mean,
Is
almost
that-
about my accent.
Is that easier than now that you've done this character for a while to slip in the accent and slip out? Or does it take a little bit to warm up and be like, okay, this is that voice?
It's all through that process that we discussed. When you're sitting in hair and makeup, when you're putting on the costume, when you're then walking into that incredible space that's created, it feels like Bilquis just kind of shows up at the moment. And it's been a lot of fun to play with that sound too. I very much wanted it to be a trade dialect, going back to the idea that she would have been traveling many trade routes and was from a very rich region that a lot of different cultures came to and interacted with. So that's been a lot of fun to play with Bilquis as well.
And is that strictly your own, or did you have a dialect coach or assistance?
Oh, that's me.
Awesome. Good job. Well, because there's some people that maybe they seek it out or they figured it out yourself. So it's great that you took like that initiative to discover and create and craft that voice.
Right. It's a fun part of the process to get to add to this collaboration that goes on.
And then the last little bit we have of Salim and the Jinn. They have they're kind of surrounded by the cops and everything, and they have the I don't regret anything their kiss. Our other favorite ship too of Jinn and Salim. They're just so adorable.
Wait, what do you all call the Mad Sweeney and the Laura Moon ship?
Midwife.
You call it Mad
Mad
Wife?
Wife, yeah.
Okay. What do you call it?
Mad Wife.
Mad Wife.
I don't think I gave it a ship name. I know other people do the abbreviated names.
Yeah,
I haven't done that with
the
them.
Mad Moon.
The Mad Moon?
The Mad Moon.
Oh,
Was
I like that.
I'm just
Yes.
saying.
I mean,
I guess that's way more even.
I ship it so hard.
Like rolling pins and curlers, like the Mad Wife.
I ship their relationship, if only because I feel Laura could love Shadow and not be in love with him. And I think they've had their time and they're past that now, which is okay.
Right.
It's one of those, it is sad to see love lost, which we get the kiss too of I Taste Lost Love. Oh, that was great too. What was it like doing scenes with Laura?
Oh my
Back again.
goodness. Emily Browning. I think everyone knows how much I adore that woman. I mean, I could go. How long do we have?
Oh, we're good.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I'll start with. No, just kidding.
No, yeah.
No. She is such a deeply intelligent, deeply gritty, and funny. I don't know that everyone gets to experience the humor that comes from Emily Browning. It was a joy to work with her. And, going into this, I did a lot of fangirling.
Nice.
That's cool. Yeah.
So, I mean, I watched Sucker Punch how
Yes.
many times,
Yeah.
So going into all this, I was fans of all these people. And so then getting to sit down, that's where I have to remind myself it's Bilquis now. Yetide can't fangirl out right now. It was a joy. It was an absolute pleasure. I love Emily Browning. I love her to death. Huh? Okay. See what I did there?
Yeah, full circle.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll keep my day job.
And that's our Steve in the booth, giving it, make us look and sound good and awesome sound effects.
Nicely done. Nicely
Give her a
done.
raise.
And actually, speaking on to that scene, so we have Bilquis having an apple,
Right.
offering an apple essentially,
Yeah.
and then a pivot where Laura offers, like, hey, you look like you want to punch a man in the face look. I recognize that look. Come with me. It's not quite a full, absolutely not. It's I know where to find you. Gentlemen, what do you think of that moment?
Definitely lines on the horizon. If I'm allowed to predict, I can't ask you or have you elaborate, but I would love to see an alliance on the horizon between the Queen and Laura.
No, I would definitely love to see an alliance too. But when I saw the apple, the first thing that I thought about was Adam and Eve for some reason. Like I thought about Adam and Eve, and as far as like that, making that choice for whatever, I guess, for sins and everything else that come into earth, good and evil. So I'm like, okay, I'm not exactly sure what's happening, but every time you're on screen, it's always like some type of seduction thing or seducing happening. So I wasn't sure exactly what direction it was about to go.
Is going. There are a lot, but that's the exciting part. And we got to, with our incredible director, Chris Byrne, just kind of walk through the scene, feel it out with each other as well. And an interesting fact, the apple in South culture is seen as a sign of fertility and creation.
Apple seeds.
See, that was always my thing about Bilquis, because even though it gets presented in this package of passion and sensualism, it's always calculated, and it's always what you don't expect, and that's what I thought was pretty cool. That the apple was a symbol of just here's the offer. We'll chat later.
They both got each other's numbers, kind of.
There's always a lot of
I know where you live. Yes.
There's always a lot of like non-verbal communication that she does, whether it's with her eyes or with her body, and just different gestures that I'm like, okay, she's communicating a lot right now. So you really embodied this role.
Oh, no, thank you. No, I appreciate that. And that for me is the juicy part, is the things that are not said. The
Right.
things, and I love that it becomes a conversation where people go, well, no, but this is what she's doing. And you go, wait, no, really, but this is what she's doing. That's where I think the fun lays.
Well, and this character, too, is so interesting because as both sides have pointed out, like, oh, you have to pick a side. And she's like, not for that life. You know,
Right.
she's like, nope, I'm going to do my thing and survive.
Right.
And adapt, which we had a couple episodes ago as well, which we talked about, is the great thing with Bilquis's character, and a couple of the other ones are maybe getting in that little bit of, I need to survive. I'm going to adapt to the situation, which seems that's the only way they really are going to continue on.
Right. It's all about the evolution. And I think the old gods have, they have quite an idea of that. If they've lived through so many different iterations, and Tech Boy is getting this as well. That the idea is to adapt, to evolve, and to move forward. But the two sides, I think that is something that we can even apply in life, where people may want to pit individuals against each other. It's this side or it's this side. You can't be. And I love that Bilquis says, no, there's another way.
Right.
And, Nancy had said first season, go find yourself a queen. And Bilquis says, you know what? I am a queen. And so I'm excited to see that play out going forward.
True.
It was very interesting to me how there was always the use of both the old gods and the new god technology, or whatever it might be, to get Bilquis back for relevance in season 1 and having her evolve, but you never quite forgot about her origins. In last week's episode, the Song of Solomon, which I thought was poignant as heck, to go full circle to the Queen of Sheba legend or myth or whatever, just says, yes, I'm evolving, but the classic spirit of who I am is not gone, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. And it's, I think she is saying that you don't have to give up that part. You can move forward with what is presented. I think Bilquis is kind of over this side or the other part of the argument. She's all about evolution.
Well, I was going to say, speaking of the other side, we have our Mr. World at the beginning of how fear is a product of the imagination, and how fear and essentially we pay for it, which is true. How many horror movies are super successful because people want to be scared and you survive and you have that adrenaline, but you came out on the other end alive. And also how that what is real in your mind becomes real in the world. You're just like, oh, yes, louder for those in the back. It's just so true.
Right. And
then how he also goes on to is fear is order, control, safety, and fiction.
Well, yeah, with that, I believe just how your thoughts are a perception of your reality, how fear only exists in the mind. I think that's what he was communicating or speaking to, but also how fear is what gets people going. People pay for that emotional roller coaster, whether it's going through to the movies or reading certain books.
Or literally roller coasters.
Or literally.
The fear of it.
Literally roller coaster. People pay for that emotional, just different balancing on different levels. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. How many times have you said, man, I would punch you in the face, but I don't want to get in trouble, right? It's the fear of being caught or whatever like that.
Well, when you put it that way.
Exactly. Keep everyone in line.
Fear can keep people in line of following the rules, or even just fear of as simple as saying hello to someone. And that's the fear of knowing the other, because I don't know that person, or I've been told these horrible things about them, those. And then you have that fear of, I can't talk to them. But why? Have you actually experienced it? And 99.9% of the time, probably not. So you need to get past that fear, and then you go, oh, wow, this is not what I expected. And life message, yo.
No,
I think that's even, drop the mic.
I think that's even connected to trauma or PTSD, how certain things happen that just trigger things in you. I was automatically triggered at different things throughout this season, whether it's hangings or even when they all had to get off the bus and it was only the black dudes off the bus. Automatically in my mind, I'm like, why is this only? I'm pretty sure it was a full bus, but back to picking sides, how we choose to pick a side, and how certain things that are portrayed on media makes you think certain things about certain people that aren't even necessarily always true, but how it's all just one big matrix of you picking a side, and how different decisions can lead to who knows where.
Right.
Actually, building upon that, and then since we have you here, we talked about it a little bit a couple weeks ago, and them, those, and immigrant experience. We have the three gods, the three African gods, talking about the African American experience, though some of them have not lived there the same way as those who were born there. What was it like filming that scene, being able to talk about such current current events.
Right.
And the show just updates it because the book was written a little while ago, but it's still like, this is stuff happening right now. If you want to touch upon that experience and anything else you'd want to share with that. I know that's a bit
No, it was an incredibly impactful scene. First of all, it was that episode was, a moment when we all walked in there and we go, it's just all of us. You don't always get that on, well, you don't often get that on TV. And even just us standing together in a room, it was impactful in itself. And it's kind of interesting to think that it's 2019, and that seems to be an odd occurrence. But what has been wonderful is that it has been resonant, and people have felt inspired by it, just even in the image in itself, and then the discussions being had, very deep, did not shy away from anything. And they are challenging each other's perceptions. And what is it? Does one person just, want to survive? Does another think that they can further worship? Does another deeply care about what's happening to individuals, whether it is something that is going to further their agenda or no? These powerful minds squaring off on this, it has been one of the most deeply resonant moments in my career.
I gotta say that episode and that scene was one of the greatest I saw, and the reason why is it was beyond left or right. It was inaction versus just blind rage. And in that same episode, Mr. Wednesday is looking for money. He's literally looking for money.
He's literally looking for money.
And it's just so funny to me that here's people just trying to look for a seat at the table to even be considered. And it's like, well, we need something stronger. We need something better than that. And there's three guys in the room, another scene. It just blows my mind.
Right.
And it's like, it just speaks on what's going on right now. So.
No, absolutely. And you speak to not getting invited to the table. I mean, we had that all the way back to episode 1. I find it interesting when people say, well, why didn't Bilquis immediately go with the old gods, with Mr. Wednesday? And I have to remind people, they didn't even invite her to the party.
Right.
at the fair, at the merry-go-round.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where's
A house
my
on the
invite?
rock.
Yeah.
She never even got the invite. She had to bring her own folding chair. And so it is, I love that you bring that up, because that, I think, is something that is another layer that's added on for these African gods. Where are they invited? Where are they underrepresented? And where do they find that the power that still remains within?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, ooh, we got nice and heavy. I like it. No, that's what's amazing about this show, is to talk about events, talk about any subject matter, and sometimes seeing it in a television show or a movie helps foster that conversation with people. Because if that's not their experience, then somebody viewing it is like, oh, I had never thought of it that way. That's not something they experience. But then the people who do see it and do experience it, it resonates with them, because we got a lot of people commenting on how that was very impactful for them, and they were like, oh, we want more discussion on it. And it's, I think, very amazing that the show was like, we are going to tackle this and put this on the show.
Oh, yeah, the show does not shy away
No,
from...
which is great. I would hope the show never does. It's like, no, that's what we need to. The other, I was going to say, let's get to the other giant kind of climax at the end, because all the other little pieces kind of build up to that.
Right.
What did we all think of? So it's all the cops are converging. Go New Media. Oh man, she was amazing this episode.
Yes, Kai, love you.
Yes, it was so fun to watch her use her power, because we had seen her before of like, how could technology and media really merge, and social media, just how they could get their fingers in all the pies, as it were, to get everybody, and they all converge on the house. And Shadow has this memory of his mom, and like, don't let them find you, and just literally wipes the toys away, and they're gone. What about y'all?
Well, I mean, the real end cap is Mr. Wednesday being like, "My boy will be fine."
Yeah,
I mean,
that too. That
I mean,
too.
yeah, if it was a big show out like Bang Bang, taking my handcuffs, I'd have been like, "Womp." You know what I mean?
That would have been
It would have been,
yes.
but I'm so glad it gave us a bit of a room to think about it. What it really meant to have Shadow decide. My wife and my relationship is changing.
Yes.
Mr. Wednesday and my boss is changing. I'm seeing dead bodies on the floor. I mean, Sweeney's blood was there the entire episode.
Yeah,
Practically
never
the
gets
entire
cleaned up.
episode.
I'm surprised Ibis let that there. He seems way
That's
more
what I'm
clean and
saying.
organized.
It seems very deliberate and specific that it was there the entire time, and we're seeing a brand new Shadow.
Yes.
Brand Shadow. Love it.
Yes.
No, I thought that scene was very good because, like you said, this was Shadow's transition into his new life. He basically just told his ex-wife or whatever you want to call her off, like, look, like the love, whatever we had, is not as strong. But also, I don't know. I was still trying to interpret what the imagination / thing meant, but I guess it meant a new start.
For me, I felt it was him literally making them leave, but I don't think it was like they've disappeared.
Right.
It's more, it was I want them gone, and that's what he's channeling,
Okay.
and it moved them to somewhere else.
So was it like a thoughts type thing, like being like what I'm thinking about? I can
Which
create.
we've seen before with the snow.
You're right.
Think
You're-
snow.
You're
Think
right.
snow.
You're right.
Think
You're
snow.
right. I forgot about that scene.
And so him with
Got
his
it.
ID, which will. What do we think of Mr. Ansel?
I think
She's like, I'm not saying.
I'm not saying.
I'm not 100% sure, but I think this is another chess play in Mr. Wednesday's book. I just
So you think Wednesday did the ID?
Yes,
Okay.
that's what I think. I think Wednesday orchestrated this in some way or capacity.
Flobo.
We're seeing more and more of what Shadow's will can manifest,
Yes.
and I think that was something to do that because there was that extra moment of the cop being like, okay. You know?
I think Shadow made his ID change. I don't think it's Wednesday, but I like the idea that it could be. I feel that's one of those if or. I'm gonna lean more that Shadow did it, but I'm curious on why that name.
Yeah, Shadow's mind is very
That is
powerful.
a very, fans of the book will recognize that.
Yes. No getting ahead if you've read the book. But I think I feel that was a great little moment that we go, oh, okay,
Right.
okay. And him back on the bus going to who knows where. We
Where
have
are they headed? Where are they
right.
headed?
So like wrapping up, we have Shadow on the bus. We don't know where he's going. Laura's carrying away Mad Sweeney. Could maybe come back. I think he could. I'm gonna hope out they could. And then we also have Jin and Salim going off, and I do love Ibis, like, essentially wishing them well until death do you part.
Right.
Oh, death and sarcasm till the end, which was hilarious and funny, but true of like, Ibis seems to be back in the regular.
Right, back
Swing of
into his
things?
flow of things, yeah.
And then we didn't see where Anansi went off to, but he's definitely not missing out on the party.
Right.
And then Bilquis with Shadow, we have that other scene too of their fortunes are tied. Want to elaborate?
You want me to elaborate on that?
Yes. If you want to
I
elaborate
just
a
have
little
to
bit.
say,
Our
what
fortunes
was-
are linked.
No,
Yes.
what was just happening there when you were talking about the moment on the gay board?
Yes.
That's what I love so much about this show. I mentioned that I had binged it before, and I remember getting to the final episode and just feeling like I was going to explode because I couldn't discuss it with more
yeah.
people.
Right.
And so I like that everyone has these different ideas and these different viewpoints on what that all means. Yes, and the Shadow and Bilquis scene. I love how there was someone, remind me of who you are, that was on Twitter that said that she used to get nervous every time Bilquis was in a room with any of the guys.
As in they would disappear?
Disappear. And so I could see some people getting a little worried.
Or
Yeah,
women too.
Yeah, women too.
Yeah.
I was a little nervous.
Yeah, you
But you know what though? But rewind.
Hey, the show's over, guys.
But whoa. Back up a couple episodes. We
Right.
have her with Ruby.
Right.
And her book was saying she's adapted and changed.
Right.
And I think from a viewer's perspective, it felt like she could absorb that love and offering without literally absorbing a person now.
Right.
Also, it's a world that, depending on who she picks, it's going to come back to her and be dangerous.
True.
So I think Bilquis finally got with the times of like, ooh, maybe I shouldn't kill them, quote unquote. I said because they're gone missing, you know that.
Missing milk cartons everywhere. Have you seen that?
No, but as we know, and that's
Yeah.
the fun part of playing this character is that you as soon as you think you know where she's headed, she does something completely different. She keeps you on your toes, and I love that they have referenced back to that fortune from episode 1 from House on the Rock. We saw Bilquis get her fortune, look at it, look at Shadow, and there's a moment and you're going, what was the fortune? Now that comes all the way back in that kiss. And that line, you taste of love lost, that resonates down many lines, down many pathways. I'm again worrying about spoiler zones, but
spoiler zones because you've read the book, or
spoiler. You almost got. I saw you did that. I stepped off of that one.
Yeah.
There is a longer relationship. There is more of a history, and there is that. That is the catalyst moment, if you notice, of she says, remember who you are.
yes, she kind of has that ritual, and it disappears.
And with that took me back to Shadow when he was younger, as far as like when his heart, I guess technically started to get darker with from fighting the boys, and then the situation with his mother, and even the love lost from his wife. I think it was a combination of that gap that just kept getting wider and wider. So her saying, remember who you are, basically remember the love that exists inside of you. So this was like a reintroduction to love in this scene. That's what I took from it.
Right.
That's a good point.
I didn't think about that. I was okay. Yeah, that's good. I'm gonna write that down. Because I was thinking more about like Bilquis' resurgence, and then the first scene being literally on the street, and having to remember she was a queen, and so you have Shadow who's been in this world almost like a Salim, right? But he has a little bit more of a ding to him, right?
Yes.
Understanding what that is and what that means.
So do we know who he is in relation to somebody else now?
Yeah, I think it's pretty obvious.
Pretty
It's, yeah.
But if we're doing this live and West Coast hasn't watched
Well,
yet,
you shouldn't be watching if you haven't watched the show yet.
Exactly. The after show first. I watched the show before.
Because we had discussed it season 1, and I don't know if it's because someone had read the book or it was that obvious. So I was already sitting there going, I'm pretty sure I know who it is. And I was waiting. So, Flobo, how do you feel now that it's been the most?
Yeah.
And Chef, how do you feel of like,
I did not read the book. I apologize. Public school
it's
education.
okay. I didn't read all of it. Yeah.
No, I totally like. To me, it seemed pretty obvious that Mr. Wednesday was Shadow's dad. I mean, the fact that he didn't mention Donar until like the second season, saying, "Oh, I had it some other way," but him saying, "Oh, my boy will be okay." Well, his other son is dead, so who else could it be than a person getting away out of town, right?
Yep.
Who cleared the board quite literally on his journey.
Wow, that question never even came like to mind. I didn't even catch that watching this. Like I didn't even catch the whole. I didn't catch it.
Yeah.
Like I literally didn't catch it. But now that y'all saying it, I'm gonna have to watch the episode again and really like embellish that. To be honest.
But that's the kind of great thing too with the shows. There are the different layers and different things pick out for different people.
Right.
Of like, ooh, that resonated, or that's something that you associate or don't, or whatnot. And then it's like, ooh, digest.
and that's another layer that going into folklore of Odin. When we speak of things like gallows ground, Odin hung himself for how many days in order to receive knowledge. So a lot of that imagery is also referring to his mythological journey as well. And
good point.
then that's something that I don't know that's been discussed.
I don't think as many people go as far back for that mythology because it's maybe more topical that people know information on Odin and be like, yeah, sure, they don't know a lot of what he did or who he is.
And to the show's credit,
Exactly.
there's some aspects of Odin they gloss over on purpose because if
Right.
you are that character, you're not
Then
going to
you-
necessarily explain it, but you're like, oh wait, Odin sleep is an actual thing. Let me go Google that.
Yeah. Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of layers to that for sure.
All right. Final thoughts on the episode and predictions for next season.
Your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
Yetide, you could say your thoughts on the episode.
Okay, there we go. Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. I mean, all of this that's been happening right now is why I loved it so much. The minute I watched it, I emailed Chris Byrne, I emailed several people because I was just so happy how ripe for interpretation it was. It was gorgeous in its own weird, gory way. It was a new kind of beast with so many potential pathways to follow. It was just, it was delicious.
Nice.
That's a good way to put it.
All right, Flobo, predictions for next time, and what did you think of this episode, season, final thoughts?
Episode was strong. This season played with a lot more of the gods I liked to hear about when I was growing up. Like Columbia had her own little time to shine, things like that. Questions, right? Mama G, where you at? That's what I want to know.
Right?
And Laura has like the symbol of like death and destruction on her, so how she's going to relate to things. Shadow's figuring out who he is, and he's not named Mike, or is he? You know, all these things are coming into play. Money's in the background. We got new media's going to evolve. Like, there is really something big besides the war that's going to happen. And my prediction is that there is going to be no more room to idly stand by. Whether the side you pick is your own or new or old gods, there is no more going like, there's no more recruiting anymore. It's like, I want to stand with the side.
All right.
Yeah, my predictions, no, what I thought about the episode, I was expecting more action. I'm not going to lie. There was a lot of content and information in this episode, but I wanted more action. And as far as my predictions, I can see Shadow stepping more into his powers and making a stronger impact this next season, but more so on the physical. I think starting with Sweeney was just the beginning of the havoc or certain damage that he's going to do. Move forward.
I like it, yes. I like this thought in the chat. Ms. Astro Stone says Odin's first son committed suicide, so he could not come back. Mad Sweeney didn't commit suicide, which means there's a chance he can be resurrected. I like that. Also, Chris Brown, I felt it was a great episode. I feel this episode was definitely didn't answer all of our questions, set up a lot more, but it's still keeping us engaged. Yeah. I agree. I wanted a little more fighting. And where is Mama G? But that's okay. It still makes me want more. So it did its job. That I'm not going, peace out, I'm done. Right. I want to know more. I think Shadow's going to develop his powers. And I think the biggest thing is he has to get over the fact of, I can do this. He's too much self-doubt. Right. It's as soon as he just entertains the idea of, let me see what I can try, that's when it's going to be like, yes, and doing more. And then I think we'll see more of the gods be more active because, they can't just sit on the sidelines anymore. Got to do something. All right. Thank you so much for watching, listening. Make sure to give that video a thumbs up. Click that subscribe button. If you're listening on iTunes, 5 stars because 1 through 4 just don't work. And let us know what you thought of the episode down below. I know there's a lot to cover of this season, this episode. Let us know your thoughts. Comment down below. And thank you so much for Yetide Badaki, Bilquis in the house. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yes,
it was a pleasure
Queen.
talking for having us.
I love it.
Exactly. So again, thank you. And gentlemen, we'll start on that end. Where can they find you and go around the table?
Of course, on Twitter, I'm at Flobo Boys. On Instagram, at Flopito and Flopito.com. My name is Flobo Boys. Thank you so much for keeping me on your second screen this season, American Gods.
Oh, wow. I love that. It's kind of hard to follow that up. But you can find me on Instagram at Yetide, very easy, and Twitter, at Yetide Badaki.
Nice.
Yes, and you can find me at chef_beans with a Z on all social media platforms.
And my name is Kari Lane. You can find me online at Kari D Lane. That's KARIDLANE. Again, thank you so much for joining the God Squad. We'll see you next season. Bye.
Our founder, Kevin Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.